Hello, morning. Got a not as good camera today, which makes me realise I'm late because I realised I was just about to go live and I hadn't washed my face yet this morning. But I probably didn't need to bother because the camera's not very good anyway. Still, it's nice to make an effort, isn't it? Okay, so welcome to anybody who's just joining. Friday, week 5. Can't believe it. If you're just joining, just a little intro and a reminder anyway, always that everything I'm doing because it feels good for my body, and you should do what feels good for your body. So just take what I'm doing as an invitation to explore. Look, you can sort of look to me for a bit of biomechanic, anatomical understanding, but how that works with your own body and how that feels in your own body and what you need, that's different. So that's up to you, and you really just listen to your own body, play around with what I'm offering and make your own practice out of it. So yeah, some days for some people that might be really doing exactly what I'm doing. Other days it might be, or for other people that might be really just taking just a few little pieces of what I'm doing and either doing much less or pushing it much stronger, training harder or resting much more, whatever you need. I'm going to start standing and switching into first person. I got my feet in the sunshine, it's nice. So I'm just standing. I close my eyes just to see how it feels. Trying to take my attention into my own body. Noticing what I can pick up on. Some days things are really clear. Some days things are less clear. Different parts of the body kind of swim into focus in different moments. And I just do tiny little movements. Like there's already movements happening just to keep me vertical. There's the postural sway. Just actually going to step my feet a few times so that my feet really go where they're comfy and where they want to fall without me enforcing a certain alignment of the feet. So I want to just let my feet just treading very, very lightly, very, very gently, kind of lifting one foot just a centimetre or something like that and putting it back down again so that my legs soften a bit, my ankles and knees soften, my hips soften. And my feet end up, by the time I stop this movement, I stop now, where my feet end up now is kind of more where they want to fall rather than me placing them somewhere. So I have a bit of a tendency to place them correctly, whatever that means, according to certain methodologies. And now I'm just placing them according to my own comfort and my own alignment, which is certainly not symmetrical. So I close my eyes again, I just notice what that feels like now that my feet have slightly moved. Sense a little clearer my alignment over each leg, how each leg is different. With my eyes closed, just sense, am I looking really directly ahead over my toes, or am I looking kind of over one foot more or the other? Am I sort of is my nose slightly turned? Is my chest slightly turned? Is my pelvis slightly turned? Can I feel that I'm shorter or longer on one side or the other? And if so, where? So all of these things are kind of, all of those things that make me, me. All those little quirks that everybody has individual variation. I'm trying to relax as much as I can, and I'm not trying to fix myself so that I'm absolutely static, but I'm just allowing and acknowledging those little movements that keep me vertical in relation to gravity, the postural sway. So I open my eyes again. I'm just going to look around a little bit. And as I look around, I see my eyes are leading the movement. I could do this with eyes closed as well, but I'm doing it with eyes open. As I look around, I just see how does the rest of my body adapt to that. For some people, I might look around and there's no movement or very, very, very little movement anywhere else in the body. For me, I'm already kind of sensing that without exaggerating it, I don't want to intentionally exaggerate, I just want to not inhibit movement. So as I look around, I can feel that that is a movement of the whole body. Me doing anything is a movement of my whole self. So as I look around, my eyes move. The muscles in my face change, my jaw. I just allow the movement to happen. Really trying to look everywhere. Not a big movement at all, but just little, taking my head off the vertical. Looking up, down, twisting, looking to the side. Everything I want to do. Tilting my head. And I just trace where do I notice the movement. So I notice it in my jaw and the muscles at the top of the back of my neck, at the base of my skull. I notice movement down my neck. Different muscles in my neck, softly shortening and lengthening. I notice the movement of my collarbones and my shoulders. Notice the movement of my shoulder blades on my ribs. And that means that I can sense my arms moving a little bit. As my shoulder blades move against my ribs, my arms move a little bit. Make the movement a little bit bigger just to see what twisting feels like. Got some juicy flies this morning. You a fly or a bee? Oh gosh, got a bee coming in. Great. So, just going to take a little walk around because I've been standing in one place for a while. I want to just let my feet move. I just see that even now, just walking, I feel a bit more aware of how my contact of the floor feels. How my feet making contact with the floor. I'm going to come back to standing. I'm glad I don't have my glasses on. I can't see what the thing is that's buzzing around me. So I just close my eyes again, have my feet wherever I want them to be comfortable standing. And this time with my eyes closed, I'm going to keep looking around a little bit. So I want to actually take it even smaller, really, really small. So I want to see, it's quite snaky. It's like a sort of subtle snake. When I look with my eyes, everything follows from there. The chain of the spine follows from my eyes. So I can feel down my neck and through my shoulder girdle. I got that far before. I'm taking my attention down my spine to my kind of upper chest, in the front and in the back. So when I look down, I can feel a little lengthening in my upper back. When I twist, I feel a little movement between kind of around my breastbone, just under my collarbones. All of this is me trying to soften and not inhibit movements. I'm not manipulating certain things, but I'm just not restricting myself. I'm not tightening and tensing and stopping movement from flowing through the body. And as my upper spine moves, my thoracic spine moves, my ribs move, I also sense my belly moving, and my lower back, and my pelvis. And as my pelvis moves, my pelvis is shifting over my feet a little bit. So I open my eyes again, and I just take my eyes out into the space, and I keep testing where I'm looking. And I just feel all the time I can be aware of how where I'm looking affects my contact with the ground. So the weight, my centre of gravity, just adapts in tiny, tiny ways so that my weight shifts very subtly between my feet and between the different parts of my feet, the front and the back, the middle. I'm kind of standing on this nice soft blanket, so I feel like I've got already a really good contact with the ground. It's a little bit artificial. I might not feel like that if I was standing on a really hard ground. But it feels nice, so that's good. I look around, and I'm just going to pause again, take one more little walk. And as I walk, I'm just going to start moving my arms around a little bit. Nothing big, I'm just wanting to feel, where do my arms go? How much easy movement is there? I feel quite stiff this morning actually. So I'm not pushing, I'm just wanting to see, like, what does it feel like to spread my fingers out a bit. I'm still aware of the contact of my feet with the ground. I'm lifting and lowering my arms, and I play a little bit with where my head is going as well, so I can twist, I can look up and down. Just letting my breath soften, letting my chest soften. I don't want to push it. I'm not feeling very mobile, so I'm not going to push it. I'm just testing. Last little walk, I let my arms go down, and then I come back to standing. And I would pause for the last time in standing just to see how I feel. Definitely settling. My lower half of the body is kind of settling into the ground a bit. My feet are settling into the ground, but I'm aware, just because of that movement with the arms that I did, I'm aware a little bit more of sort of stiffness around the upper third of me, my neck and shoulders. We're just observing. I'm in this state of observing and not judging as much as possible. Now I'm going to make bigger movements. I'm basically bending down, twisting to the side, having just kind of bigger movements all the time, kind of like a tree. I can feel my feet rooted into the ground, but maybe better like a seaweed. I'm rooting down, but everything from the feet up can just move. And I'm just wanting to see, where can I go? And I'm going to come from here, still surveying everything, making sure that I'm giving up as much as possible. I'm only doing what's pleasurable, what's comfortable. I'm not pushing big movements, I'm really just testing. I'm in the range of testing still. Start to bring my hands down to the floor and also crouch, so my heels come off the floor. I feel that changes what's happening in my back, my belly, my knees. When I'm crouching, I can feel that lengthening my back. I'm trying not to push into a stretch and stay there. I'm just trying to keep a bit of movement going. And I can feel my legs kind of thicker and chunkier here now that they're bent up, and I want to just see if I can soften them a bit. I'm just gently, softly moving around, feeling my weight shift, feeling my pelvis shift, my centre of gravity shifts, my low belly, my low back, my head can drop. Just shifting myself around in this position, not trying to keep any particular alignment. I just lower my heels down with my toes
still tucked underneath. And my hands are flat on the ground, and I start to move myself around here a little bit. Just playing with where can my back go. I've got a soft stretch going through my toes. Letting my pelvis lift and lower. And pushing back into crouching. And I'm going to do that a few times, so tucking my toes underneath, coming into crouching, placing my knees down, coming forwards into a kind of all fours position. But all the time I have this kind of seaweedy feel, a sort of slightly snaky feel through the spine. I'm trying to stay soft in my jaw. I'm letting my hips and knees and ankles and toes soften. I'm not forcing any particular alignment. I'm just trying different alignments. I just uncurl my toes so that I can come right back to kneeling. And then from kneeling, I shift around my bottom and kneeling a little bit. And I bring my arms back into the picture. So I'm kneeling and I'm shifting my weight. And I'm letting my arms move my spine. So that I can twist and side bend and open and extension and flex. Feel how my fingers connect to my waistline through my shoulder and my ribs. And then I come back to... So all the time I'm shifting my weight. But just on my knees here, I'm going to shift my weight around a little bit. On my hands as well. So I'm spreading my hands out really nicely, like kind of... how do you say? Like paws. Like kind of cat paws that squidge out into the ground. And my elbows can come down as well in the same way. So I'm just shifting my weight, looking around, playing with where my head goes. And then I tuck my toes underneath and I come back into crouching. And a few times I'm going to keep my toes tucked under again and come forwards. And I'm shifting my weight between my tucked under toes and in crouching. Tucked under toes and hands on the floor in crouching. And then tucked under toes, knees and hands on the floor to shift around basically on my hands and knees but with my toes tucked under. And then back into crouching. And I come back to lengthen my legs. So I've got my hands and feet on the floor now. I'm shifting my weight around on my hands and feet a little bit, just softly, what's possible, only what's possible, I'm not pushing. And then from there I come to have just my feet on the floor, and I come up again into standing and find length. And I move my feet around on the floor. So all the time I'm listening to the whole body as much as I can. So some helpful things are the contact with the ground and how the contact with the ground affects the movement of the rest of my body, and then how my intention to look somewhere or to reach my arm somewhere affects the rest of my body and my pelvis, and therefore my contact with the ground. So basically I'm just trying to explore how different parts of me and different movements open up or close, twist or bend different parts of me and shift my centre of gravity. From here I'm just going to come into this sort of soft circle, like a very lazy circle where I'm letting my pelvis go off centre. This is more like a kind of warm-up exercise. So I have to be careful not to do it as if it's a warm-up exercise, basically. Then I start to get into all sorts of habits. Instead, I'm really just seeing what does it feel like to let my pelvis go around one way. And then I feel like, I can get into bits of my back that I don't normally open up. I can get into an opening up of my hip that I can't necessarily normally get into. I let my arms move in relation, I let my chest and belly do what it needs to do.
Sometimes my head is looking forward, sometimes I let my head come off the centre, and then play with changing directions of the circle. Whenever I feel there's a kind of interesting bit, I go, oh, I just noticed that. I change directions, I sort of work a little bit of the circle. What can I do when I notice there's a stiffer bit? What can I do to make it better? I could soften my chest again. I could let my weight shift. I let my weight shift. I could let my eyes lift or lower. So I'm just basically trying not to fix anything. I'm trying to let the circle of the centre of gravity, the circle of the pelvis, in varying sizes, it could be really big or it could be really small, but in varying sizes I'm just trying to let things stop getting in the way. I've got my notifications turned off on my computer, so I do not know, I have no idea what that noise is. It's really annoying. I feel it. I straight away feel it in my body, like embodied annoyance. Blech. I feel my tongue gets tighter in the back of my throat. I'm gonna shake it off. Have a little bounce. I'm really trying to train myself not to swear on camera, but it's really hard. Good. So I just take a little walk and reset. And I'm going to come back to standing. And I'm going to go through that whole little, basically make it sort of a sequence. But again, once it becomes a sequence, I have to be careful that I'm not just doing it kind of just to fulfill the task or just to fulfill the move. But I want to keep it like an exploration, as if I don't know where I'm going, even though I kind of do know where I'm going. So I'm just going to very quickly remember what it is. So in standing, playing with shifting my centre of gravity and either moving my arms or just moving my eyes and seeing how that moves my feet. I'm going to come all the way down to the ground and I play with having my hands and feet on the ground in different ways. Again, my head can go different ways. Hands and feet on the ground, my bottom can be up in the air or my bottom can be down. Different relationships of my knees, ankles, pelvis. So I can come into crouching then. From crouching I can put my knees on the floor and then I've got my toes tucked under, my knees on the floor, and I'm shifting my weight between my tucked under toes, my knees and my hands, and I'm just shifting weight, seeing how it feels, exploring the chain of the spine, shifting the centre of gravity, noticing what I can notice and staying soft. And I tuck my toes underneath. Oh no, I got it wrong. Good to remember. Then I untuck my toes so that I can come to kneeling. And from kneeling I can shift my centre of gravity around again. Have my eyes open when I want, closed when I want. Either my eyes can guide the movement or reaching through my arms can guide the movement. I'm just noticing how what's going on in my upper half of the body affects the lower half of my body. Anything I want in this kneeling position or variations of the kneeling position. Getting distracted because I just discovered something else I like. Getting my pelvis in between my heels, which is really difficult for me and for some reason is quite easy right now, which is interesting because my knees are wide, that's why. Anyway, so from here, kneeling, coming back to toes tucking under, playing around with weight between hands, toes and knees. Hands, toes and knees in different ways. That can be big or small again. How much weight on my hands, how much weight on my knees. Toes tucking under, then I can come into crouching and or hands and feet. So basically hands and feet means crouching as well as lifting the pelvis. And then all the way up to feet. And I'm going to do it again. And that's where I am. I'm going to actually revise it even quicker Still trying to stay soft. Hands and eyes moving me, moving my centre of gravity, trying to stay aware of the rest of my body. All the way down to the ground, hands and feet on the floor. Hands and feet on the floor, maybe my eyes moving me. My head moving, my eyes moving my head. And then down into crouching. So I can just feel what is crouching like. Different versions, different relationships of ankles, knees, toes, hips, different alignments of the legs. And tucking my toes under, or keeping them tucked under but lowering the knees, shifting weight forward, so tucked under toes, knees, hands. Shifting weight. Where does my pelvis want to go? What do I want to get into? What's interesting? Notice some tightness around my hips. And then all the way back into crouching, or bum up in the air, whatever I want between hands and feet. And then all the way up. And I'm going to do it once more really slowly, just really slowly. I'm going to start in standing minimal, really minimal. Almost no movement, just treading my feet into the floor again just to kind of reset myself. And I'm starting with my eyes closed and with tiny little movements, just looking around with my eyes closed and seeing how that shifts my gravity, my centre of gravity. Seeing, can I let go? I realise I can let go tension around the eyes and the belly and the hips. And the upper back, I feel I can expand a little bit in the upper back, and that lets me actually relax my eyes a bit more. Feeling how where I look with my eyes closed affects the rest of my body. The musculature, all the tissue, all the fascia, chains of tissue. And then I add in my arms. Where do my arms go? How does that affect the rest of my body? Keeping it so soft so that I can really notice. And also really do what feels good. So when I'm soft and slow like this, and I can get into parts of my rib cage that normally may be kind of closed because of muscular tightness. And twisting softly, opening up softly. Feel very tactile, very aware of the air on my skin, aware of the softness of the tissue. And coming down, lowering my head towards the ground. Even just here hanging down, I explore a little bit what happens when I move my head in different ways, looking around in different places. Where do I want to bend my knees? Where do they lengthen? Which parts of my body feel good softening or opening up, folding? I come down to crouching, so my ankles, my toes are folding, my ankles are folding, my knees are folding, my hips are folding. And I let my crown of the head drop, and I'm shifting my hands around on the floor. Just like I did when I was standing, I'm exploring these tiny little shifts of weight. As I lean a bit of weight into my hands, I can allow my centre of gravity to shift. Different points over my toes and heels, towards my heels, even though my heels aren't on the ground.
and into my hands in different places, and my knees drop a little closer to the floor and come away depending on where my weight is. And then I come down to the ground with my knees as well, and I stay with my toes tucked under for a bit, and I stay with my hands quite close to my knees and thighs or shins so that I can move my hands around on the floor a little bit in this gentle toe stretch. See if I can soften again around the hips and knees. I feel I need to lift my bottom a bit and then sit it back down just to help me soften my calf muscles in the back of my lower leg. There we go, now my calf muscles are softer, so I can get deeper into the fold in the knees. Looking around. And I start to walk my hands slowly further away from my knees so that I'm coming into hands and knees but with my toes still tucked under. So I'm sort of sitting back, coming into crouching a little bit as I lift my knees, pushing my hands into the ground softly, and then lowering my knees and walking my hands forwards or around to the side, different places, shifting my weight. Where is my head looking? How does that affect my pelvis, my weight into the ground, back into crouching. Soft belly, toes. I'm unfolding my toes. I'm uncurling my toes, and I'm going to sit back and let my head drop down. And play with shifting my arms and my pelvis around so my hands can still be on the floor. My knees can change width. I'm shifting my weight a little. Where can I shift my weight? With my bottom back over my heels, my hands and elbows on the floor, and my head can lift and lower. So I'm just letting myself slide over my heels and slide my knees around on the floor. And my belly's soft and my back is soft, and all the time I'm just exploring how my center of gravity shifts. All of this stuff. This is so good for kind of healthy aging as well, because how we fall, how we come in and out of the floor, obviously is a big problem with age. And the more we can just bleh into the floor, the less brutal it is when we fall, or the less likely we are to fall potentially. So I'm shifting my weight between my knees, kneeling, knees and hands, with my weight back over my feet, or my weight forwards in hands and knees, starting to be a bit more alive in my upper body, in my arms, padding my hands into the floor, seeing how my back moves. And then I'm going to push my bum up into the air and pad my hands and feet around. And again, this is obviously, suddenly it looks like, oh, you're doing yoga, but it's really helpful just to try and make it an exploration rather than fulfilling some preconceived idea. So because it's an exploration, I noticed I had some tension around the right side of my jaw, my eye, and I just move my right arm and I can relieve that tension, and then come down onto my knees to play with different alignment of the hand and shoulder. And then maybe I can come back into that kind of uneven downward dog, a kind of crooked, alive, melting, soft, pressing, spreading into the ground, moving my center of gravity, my belly, my pelvis. And I'm going to come back down with my toes tucked under to come up onto my knees. So I'm now in a little bit of more of a toe stretch. For me, this is really hard, so I'm going to be really gentle with it. My toes are tucked under, but my weight is back over my heels. My bottom is over my heels.
just shifting my weight a little bit, and that changes the stretch of my toes. I want to come out of that already. So I uncurl my toes. So now in kneeling, just let myself settle a little bit, let my breath settle. I'm going to start playing with how I can shift my weight, my pelvis off my heels. So what I'm interested in is a smooth action. I was trying to communicate this in a class the other day. Even though of course it's fine to fall, it's fine to discover that you've gone too far, that's great. If one falls, it's an indication that there's a piece of that action that isn't clear yet. So how can the action be reversible? This is a kind of key Feldenkrais principle. Unless obviously you're doing a movement in the air, it doesn't really apply to acrobatics so much. Well, depends. Anyway, that's a different discussion. So I'm looking to shift my pelvis around in relation to my heels and knees. And I'm still exploring what does that do for my centre of gravity, and what does that do to my upper body. How can my eyes and arms be involved in that? And if my eyes and arms are involved, how can I open up my chest in different ways, my belly, or the back of the body, the back of the waistline, the diaphragm. So the key is, I'm just going to kind of demo basically, just to make it really clear. I don't want to go, my idea is like I'm just looking for how can I shift weight and pour weight into the floor in different ways. And that obliges my legs to do different things. I can sit on the floor and so on. What I don't want is to go boom. That's a big over-exaggeration, but generally there are kind of these moments where it's like, oh, I could go further, but it would be a drop, and then how do you get back from there? I see this a lot in my teaching. Like, good to like pull yourself up. So stressful immediately. So I just want to play, even if I have to use my hand on the floor to support, how can I play with taking my weight into and out of the ground? And then what does that make possible in my knees? So I let my knees open in different ways. I let my belly open in different ways. I let my hips open in different ways. And then I might end up in a different position. I might end up in side sitting. So I'm kind of passing my feet underneath myself, and that's only possible because it's really about shifting the weight, keeping it soft. So basically I'm looking for soft little variations about something that's reversible, and then I can come up into different positions. Sometimes I use my hands on the floor to stabilise myself. Every now and again I want to lengthen a leg because I've had my knees bent a lot. So the basic starting position is kneeling. Now shifting, how do I shift weight in kneeling? Can I do it with my hands off the floor? Staying soft, coming back. It's really amazing how my pelvis goes to sit on the ground, and to get back I can literally feel that where I'm looking pulls through my spine to lift my pelvis. So I'm interested in the chain of the spine, and then I'm just going to vary it so that I can use my hands and get into different parts of the pelvis, lifting the pelvis, twisting, different relationships with the knees, all the time with the stuff on the knees. The knees are really instinctive about what's okay and what's not, so you just listen to the knees. If something doesn't feel okay, then it's not okay and you don't do it. I'm enjoying this sitting between my heels on the floor, one heel on either side. It's not normally very accessible to me, so that's nice. I give my feet a little massage there into the bridge of the foot where I might tend to cramp. I think as I get older, I'm going to start cramping more. Easing my feet into the ground a little bit. Pushing my pelvis around. Opening up my chest. Bumping my head on the laundry basket. And I'm just going to come all the way forwards to line my belly, because I want to open up the front of my hips. And I'm going to just very softly, very gently roll my pelvis side to side. Like a jelly butt. Jelly thighs, jelly butt. Take a rest, yawn. My head is rolled to one side and I'm taking my heels side to side in order to roll over my thighs and let my belly and my pelvis roll on the ground. I just do the same thing but turn my head the other way. And as I lie here, I try to gradually soften my chest more and more. And I feel the front of my thighs gradually relax, the front of my hips gradually relaxing, hip flexors. And I open my heels in and out softly, so I'm just kind of jiggling my heels in and out to get a very soft internal, external rotation of the thighs, of the legs, of the hips. Jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. And then I'm going to come up and just lifting my chest and putting it back down again. Lifting my chest and putting it back down. Just a tiny movement. I'll come up a little bit higher. And I'm really just exploring, if I go with my eyes first, what happens to the contact of my body with the ground. Lift my eyes, my head follows, my chest follows. And I'm listening to the contact of my body with the ground. Eyes first, head follows, chest follows. Then if I want to go further, I need to use my arms on the ground. And I'm going to do that a few times. Resting, looking forwards. Playing with how my head lifts my chest, where my arms are. Has a big effect on how my shoulders can move. So just like before when I was shifting my centre of gravity, how can I stop things getting in the way? With my shoulders one way, I feel my shoulders are stopping me from being able to lift my chest. If I turn my hands the other way, and my shoulders stop getting in the way and they enable me to lift my chest. So I play with that. And then I push back, actually bring my knees in so that I don't sit on the laundry basket again. And I just rest my head down. And I bring my arms by my side, so a proper rest in this kind of child's pose. I'm going to start to speed things up a little bit and basically stay with the whole kind of palette that I've been working on throughout the lesson, but speeding it up and pushing into slightly more muscular places. Before I do that, actually, I'm just going to take a lie down on the ground, which I haven't done yet today. Just lying flat on my back. So just a little check-in. Lying on my back, seeing how I make contact with the floor. I didn't want to start in this way today. I don't try not to start in the same way every time. But it's nice to come back to this familiar place on the ground to scan. To scan the body, to notice change as it happens. And to rest. And then I'm going to just stand my feet, take a moment there. And then I'm going to come all the way around and back up to standing. So the whole palette of what I've been doing, but pushing a little bit into the muscularity of it, always within my range of comfort. So this can feel quite linear, but it's really important to notice that I'm putting in all of the non-linear things, the twists, the side bends, turning, spiraling, asymmetry. Playing with where my eyes and hands go. Just playing with whatever's comfortable. In standing to start with. Different alignment. Bending and lengthening. Oh, a few little pliés, heels together, toes apart. Playing with a different alignment of my feet. Drawing my belly in and up a little bit more. Squeezing my inner thighs, working on my turnout a little bit more actively. As I shift my weight. Shifting, spiraling muscles, using my hands to help me feel how those external rotators spiral my thighs into external rotation, my hips into external rotation, use my hands on my back to open up my back, and then into this reaching through. How do my arms and my eyes affect my body, staying loose even though I'm going a little faster. All the way down. Where does my back go? Into crouching. Crouching is also obviously a plie if I want to do that. Where can I go? Not necessarily repeating the same thing, but varying. Opening the knees up. Where are my eyes looking? I've got this nice little added challenge that I don't have glasses on, so extra balance challenge because I can't see. Pushing my toes into the floor nice and strong through the legs, drawing the belly up, and then down, all the way into crouching again, coming back into parallel, taking my weight between my hands and feet, and this time adding in the possibility for plank, coming forwards, over plank, twisting and looking to the side. How do my legs bend or lengthen? Playing with walking the feet into the floor and now lifting one leg, opening up, twisting. Where does that leg go? All the way forwards into a lunge. And all the way back. Just nice, juicy, soft muscularity. Other leg up in the air, playing with where does it go. I'm still feeling my contact with the ground. My soft jaw. The way my hands and my eyes affect my chest, my spine. Where does the leg go? All the way forwards into a lunge. Nice and gooey and gummy. Pushing back up. I want to do that again on the other side. Leg up, around, pushing around. Where can it go? Where do my eyes go? What feels good? Yoppa. I want to take another lunge, coming forwards with that front foot. Bringing hands off the floor, into a lunge, aware of the rotation of my legs. Playing with balance, support. Can I soften in my toes, my foot, my hips, twisting, adding a nice twist, get into the hips in a different way with my back knee down, pushing forwards, coming back, changing other leg up, little movement. That feels different now that I did the other side again. What can I do that is unexpected? And then that leg forwards into the lunge again. No sudden movement, so I've got this flow going so that I can go into different stretches but without anything being boom, sudden. I don't want that. I want it all juicy and slow and flowy. Feeling my back. Release. Pop. Different things possible. Coming up into tall lunge. I feel my feet pushing into the ground, give me this support. And then the back knee down, twisting to get into the hip. In a different way, I let my front foot roll. Bigger versions of this are possible, faster and slower versions are possible, tiny versions are possible, making it more comfortable and gentle. This is the stage I want to be at. Tucking my back toe under again, coming back to have both feet on the floor and then toes tucked under, so that I'm coming back into this crouching exploration, crouching, knees forwards, hands on the ground, shifting weight, crouching, knees forwards, knees and spine, pushing, playing with how I push into the ground, changes my spine, different places for my wrists. Maybe I want to stretch my fingers out a little bit at the same time, wrists away from me, padding through the ground, back of the hands on the floor to stretch out the back of the wrists, generally making sure that my wrists are under my shoulders as I do that, for the alignment of the wrist, more or less. And then back into knees on the ground. I want to do press-ups with my knees down today, so soft knees, just playing a little bit with press-ups, and then twisting and opening. I need to get my chest open, twisting, opening the other hand just to open up my chest so that then I can do more press-ups again. Playing with press-ups, the version where I look up and snake up, and then my arms just lift at the end, like a little lizard. This cobra press-up, and then belly in, straight backed, more or less straight backed press-up. Still how my hands are on the ground affects my shoulders, resting when I want, and pushing back to kneeling. Last little bit of exploration in kneeling, coming in and out of, shifting the weight in kneeling in different ways. Kneeling, shifting the pelvis, every now and again straightening a leg to get a little bit of length somewhere else. And then finally, I got my little bit of glute work, just feeling that when I lift my pelvis, I squeeze my bum. So I'm taking this glute work by really sitting in between my heels and then squeezing my bum and just seeing that that lifts my pelvis, squeezing and lifting. And I'm trying to let my chest and jaw stay soft so that it's really clear how far I go with my pelvis and how that lifts my chest and my spine. And I seem to be generally closer to the laundry bin today. And I do the same thing but with a little twist and a spiral. I'm looking down towards my pelvis just to see what's happening. Lifting, pushing. This is where I'm really tight, so if somebody else demonstrating would have their pelvis probably like even a foot higher potentially. So I'm just exploring how squeezing the bum opens up the front of the hip. Squeezing the bum opens up the front of the hip. And that affects internal and external rotation of the hip. Trains my glutes at the same time. Try to stay soft in my ribs at the same time. Go back to doing both together. This nice kind of wave, wave, wave. Can bring me up and down all the way onto my belly again to just roll out my thighs on the ground. Little massage rolling over one thigh, just using the weight of my own body to roll out the thigh. I can kind of wedge the muscle against the ground and then roll over it. I don't need a roller. Just roll against the ground. And then the other side. Quite vigorous, quite thick and thorough about it. And then side to side, taking it smaller, taking it softer. Little waggle side to side of my pelvis with my heels. So it's my heels going side to side like windscreen wipers, which waggles my legs side to side, which waggles my pelvis side to side. I can feel my belly squidging on the ground and my back. A little oscillation passing up through my spine. If I go double speed, I make it small, small, small. Try and get a little oscillation going up through my spine, so that I can feel my breastbone rubbing side to side on the floor. This is more or less comfortable for different chested people. Super comfortable for me. Turn the head the other way. And feel my breastbone on the ground and my pelvis rolling. And I just pause. Do nothing. And I take my legs in and out. And I just make sure I've got room for my arms overhead. And I take my arms forwards. And I just tuck my tummy in and look forwards a little bit. And feel that I can press the front of my armpits open a little bit. So I'm just opening up my armpits a little bit more. I turn my palms to the ceiling, still wriggling through my centre, but my belly's more active. I'm sucking my ribs in and my belly in, keeping my lower back long, and pressing my armpits into the ground with straight arms, looking forwards. A little bit of extra shoulder mobility, still nice and soft. It's not uncomfortable for me, it's just a bit more work. And then softening again, opening up, looking around like a baby now, just crawling all the way up to standing. Finishing in standing, just taking a moment to have just standing, seeing how I feel. I want to take a little swing with my arms side to side just to wriggle out my waist. And I really feel the connection of my feet on the floor to my ribs and shoulders, soft jaw. And I'm going to take it into a walk again to finish. And like I did at the beginning, as I walk I'm just looking around and kind of waving my arms around a bit, seeing how reaching can move my spine, shift my center of gravity. And I'm taking a little jog, I'm making it a little lighter so that I'm bouncy through the feet. Kind of just getting this nice bounce Again, just feeling, if I were going outside now, I could feel that the push, there's this softening of my feet into the floor, and then the push of my feet into the floor helps me get